welcome to my channel. Today I'm filming my very first talk over birthday card tutorial. This tutorial is for a Cricut cut file that I have created myself within Cricut Design Space. It is for a nautical themed birthday card. So here I'm just laying out all of the pieces that I cut using my Cricut Explore Air 2. These are all the files that come with the birthday card package. And I'm just kind of laying them out sort of how they would be assembled together here. Make sure I've got all of the pieces together and everything is organized before I start assembling a card. The other things that you'll need for this card are a card base. I chose a white 4x6 cardstock base, pretty basic, plain old card. You'll also need regular old glue stick to help stick everything down and foam squares if you decide to make it 3D. Lastly, you'll need a background piece that's cut just slightly smaller than your cardstock base. I chose a light blue color, sort of to emulate the sky. So once you've got all your pieces organized and everything's ready to go, pop off the top that glue stick and we'll get going. I'm going to start with my sentiment because it's two pieces that easily go together. Pretty simple to start there. The pieces are designed to line up on the center of each other. However, with the sentiment, I do like to have it a little bit more towards the left, so I've got more red showing on the right. Totally personal preference. You can stick them on however you want to. So now I've got all the pieces here for the boat, and I'm just going to glue the blue piece here. All the pieces are designed to fit over top of each other pretty well, accurately, exactly. However, I do like to bump them up a little bit and just create a little bit of a bigger boat shape here, but they do line up right with that white piece, so you could put them right along the edge, but I have them just out a little bit, just to give me a little bit of a bigger boat here. So this gray piece here is the cabin, and the black piece that I've cut out is the smokestack. So I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on the bottom of the smokestack and attach it to my cabin. And I actually should have done this before I attached the smokestack, but this yellow piece is just a stripe that goes on the smokestack. So I'm going to glue this onto the smokestack and kind of peel up the back of this cabin a little bit just so I can get that stuck underneath to create the layers that I want. Next, I've got this small brown square, and that's going to act as a door for the cabin. And I'm going to glue that right on there. And our cabin is pretty well done here, so I'm going to pop a little glue on the bottom and stick that to my hull. Here you've got a little bit of play depending on how tall you want the cabin, how short you want the cabin, how much the door you want showing. I like to have it just overlapped a little bit, but I like to have most of it there. So next we're going to do the flagpole. If I can get it up off the desk here. So I'm going to pop a little glue on the bottom, and this one you can pretty well stick wherever you want. I chose it on the back because once I've added the flag part, it kind of makes it look like it's blowing on the wind. Gives a little bit of movement to the card, but by all means stick it on the front, stick it on the top of the cabin, pretty much wherever you want. So just attaching this little flag piece here, and we're just about done the boat, but the last thing we've got here is this orange life preserver. And again, you'll notice at the end, when I show the completed pictures, there are 4 white rectangles that I have added to the life preserver. I found at the end it just kind of gave it a little bit more definition. These are included in the final Cricut cut file. They are super tiny though, so just keep an eye on them because they get lost easily. So now that the boat's done, we're going to grab our background piece and we can start sort of laying stuff out where we want them to go. Big problem I have is just sort of going right ahead and sticking stuff on before I've got a plan, and it normally backfires on me because something doesn't fit or it doesn't line up quite as nicely, or I get an idea afterwards of how it would look better, that kind of a thing. So I'm just kind of deciding where I want things, and I decided earlier that I did want the boat on the left hand side of the card because it lines up with the flag. However, when you do have the Cricut file, you can flip everything if you so chose to. So you could have it in the reverse. You would have the flag on the right hand or the left hand side and the boat on the right hand side, or going in the left direction or going towards the right. The first thing that I will stick down and make permanent on the card though is the background element pieces. In this case, that's the waves. The lighter wave set is actually a little bit longer than the other one, so I'm going to stick that one down first. And you'll notice that it is actually a little bit longer than the background piece. And that is on purpose. It's just because I didn't want those waves to be lined up exactly one on top of each other. I wanted a little bit more definition and differentiation between the two layers of wave. And we're going to pop the boat in between the two sets of waves. Again, adding a little bit of perspective and layering up makes it look a lot nicer than just having it sitting on top of the two waves altogether. So I'm going to glue on this first set of waves. And yes, again, make sure you just get it right to the corners, because going back and having to re-glue down corners that just won't stick is a pain in the butt. So because this one is a little bit longer and I'm layering another set of waves on top of it, I don't have to push this right down to the very bottom. And as you can see there on the right, there is the overhang that I was telling you about. Don't worry too much about that though. Right now we'll focus on that more when we get our second set of waves attached. So as you can see, I'm just trying to line up where I want the waves to go, and you'll actually see I make a mistake here. I started to glue on one end of it and I was going to go and glue it down, and then I remembered that I did want to make this into a 3D card. So before I stuck it down, luckily I realized, and I grabbed my foam squares here. Pretty simple. I got a package of them from the dollar store. I also decided that I was going to flip the waves around and go the other way. So I got my foam square here. Got about 50 of them for $1.25. Pretty good deal. So, and because the wave was a little bit narrower than the actual square, I had to cut the squares in half so that I could use them on the wave without them poking through the edges there. So there's the halves of the foam backed squares. And these will just give a nice pop out effect. It'll be more of a 3D card than a flatter card, again giving a little bit more definition and a little bit more fun to the card. So once we get this third one on, I'm just going to peel the backing off and then stick it on. For this though, you'll just need to make sure it's a little bit harder to see because it is raised from the actual background, but you'll just want to make sure that the bottom of the wave lines up at least with the bottom of the background, because then you don't want to have the background poking out underneath the waves. The waves are supposed to be the end of the background there. So once we get those peeled off, we are going to stick it on. And again, I did decide to flip the waves over and have them going the other direction, just because I thought it mixed it up a little bit and made it a little bit more interesting. There we go. So yeah, just making sure it's even and it's all lined up properly. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean up those edges there and get rid of just that little bit of overhang that I had on both sides. There's one, and that foam piece is sticking on the scissors. And we'll clean up the other side here. Perfect. So there you go. And as you can see, it actually adds a nice aspect to it when you've got the other one raised from the other one. And then I can stick the boat nicely in between, and it kind of gives a sense of depth to the card. I also decided that I was going to add some of these foam squares to the back of the boat and bring that up from the background. Again, adding a bit more definition. So I used 3 foam squares for this one, just to make sure the whole thing was structured and popped out nicely from the back of the card. Again, peeling off the back of those foam squares. And I guess it's taking me a long time to do it, but here we go. And there we go. So we're going to toss it in between those two sets of waves there, just keeping in mind that I do need to have enough space to put the smoke cloud coming out of the smokestack. So there we go. That's what we've got so far. Little boat in the waves. Super cute. So there's our smokestack. Smokestack you could add right to the background, but again, I decided to use the foam squares and bring that element forward just a little bit. I had to cut the foam squares in half again, just because they were a little bit too wide for the cloud. So pull that off, and I only used 1. I could have used 2, but I would have had to cut it probably into 3, and it was a little bit finicky to cut in the first place, so I opted just for using 1. And since it's a small enough element, it was still pretty sturdy, only having the 1 foam square on there. So get it placed where you want it. And next, we're going to do the sentiment. And I chose to use the foam squares on the sentiment as well. So the only thing that's actually glued to the background of the card is the first set of waves. Perfect. So we've got most of our card done here. And we're just going to grab the card base before we go any further. I didn't want to attach the sentiment on because I actually wanted the sentiment to be across both the background and the actual card base. So what I'm going to do to attach the picture element of the card to the card base is use some double-sided tape here. And I'm just going to cut off little sections. I'm not going to cover the whole back of the card. I'm just going to get one piece sort of in the corner and along the side a bit. I'm going to alternate what corners I do that on. So this one I'll do it on that side, and then I'll do it along the other edge so that I'm getting the corner as well as some of the edge stuck down. If I had a heavier card, or say a card with movement, or like a slider card or something like that, I would probably add a little bit more as maybe like an X through the middle. But since this card is fairly light, I'm not too worried about it moving around anywhere. And this double-sided tape is pretty good at keeping everything exactly where you want it to stay. So I'm peeling off the backing here. And I'm going to get my card oriented how I want it. And then I'm just going to sort of eyeball the center of this. If you're really finicky, you could measure it, but I'm not that kind of person, so I'm just going to let it go and eyeball it there. Now I'm going to grab my sentiment here and a couple more of those foam squares. Stick those right to the back of that sentiment. And there we go. And peel those sticky parts off, or peel the backing off of the sticky part. And it's all sticking to my fingers as well. So once I've got those on, I'll just line up where exactly I want it to go. And like I said before, I did want it to cross over from the background onto the card a little bit. So you can see it goes past the blue and onto the white. And I think that just kind of ties it all together, makes it kind of seem like one cohesive thing. Whereas you've got the picture separate from that, and it looks pretty good that way, I think. So there we go. We have it all done. Your card is all set. This one is blank on the inside, but you definitely could write whatever you needed to. Perfect birthday card for anybody you know. And there we go. So I hope everybody liked this tutorial. I'm sorry the audio is a little bit glitchy. It's the first one, and I was trying to do this in between nap times with a fussy 4-month-old. I promise I'll be working a little bit harder to get them all up and going a little bit smoother for next time. If you'd like to see the written version of this tutorial, it is posted on my blog. The link is right down there in the description. And if you'd like to be up to date every time I'm posting, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.